Hello. I had a viewer ask me a question. Why do I train in such high rep ranges? Because that shit ain't gonna work. It's not gonna do anything for an advanced lifter. Everyone knows this. Just like how everyone just knows that the Earth is the center of the solar system. It is known. The truth is, the truth is often, that's the word, not what everyone thinks. And also not that complicated. It's just you gotta just realize that the masses are stupid. Step outside the box for a second, and the answer is usually pretty obvious. It's just not what everyone knows, so it's just ignored for centuries. So this is going to be the most useful video you've probably ever seen about bodybuilding, okay? Without exaggeration. There's a lot of answers I could give to this, but I'm just going to jump to like the most important one, and the other ones will just come up like in future videos and other topics, okay? When you see somebody with a lot of muscle mass, what do you think about that person? That they're a drug addict. Smart. Most of the time. Other than that, what do you think about that person? What do you think about their ability? Like, what does this change? What part of their stat sheet has been boosted to the moon? Okay? Because it's not athleticism. It's not max force output. What does muscle mass actually mean? What is it? What does it do? Okay, and then once you think about that for a second, there's only so many stats that someone can have, right? So, you start thinking about the different stats that someone could have. Okay, I'm gonna give you a second. I mean, you've had your whole life to think about this, but I'm gonna give you a second because like there's so many stats. There's only so many stats, right? What is muscle mass? Once you understand what it is, you train specifically for that to maximize that. And if you've thought about that for a second, and if you agree with the statement I just said, you will immediately be like, yeah, training in reps of 5 or something is useless. Not useless. It will work. You could just probably do 10 times as good. And if you're one of those like new like science-based lifter bros, I could even give you this is gonna be the best your favorite video ever. I could even give you math that you could do. Uh, I mean, I don't do math. I just kind of like understand the concept and then just use that mental bandwidth to work harder. I ain't got time for that. But if you enjoy the pen and paper, you could figure it out. You know exactly what ranges you want to use. Okay. So, thinking about the order of operations of explaining this. Even though the answer is really simple, I could just spit it out, but I feel like a little, in my other video, I was like, I will elaborate as much as possible without extending into other topics. Everything that I say. Okay. So, your muscles are the motor units to move your body. Everyone knows this. Like, they're like, yeah, cool. So, the bigger the muscle, the stronger you are because the more motor units you have. Well, strength is a lot more complicated. That's their own video. Those things, multiple videos on that possibly. But and yes, strength and muscle correlate. Sure, everyone's like, yeah, but like it's so mysterious. Like why are some stick frail people like they're just a little toothpick? They can lift crazy amounts of weight, for like a 1 rep max, but then you got these big popcorn muscle bodybuilders who can't. Muscle is useless, it's like, well, not useless. It does something, but it's not directly your force output. Force output's very complicated, actually. Your muscle mass is your okay. So your muscle is not only your motor units to move around. Each muscle is also its own self-contained fuel supply for that movement. Okay, how many? I'll give you a second to get a little light bulb explode on your head and kind of understand before I move on to the next step. Because any bit of this you get yourself, you're gonna have a little bit of satisfaction. Get that little achievement unlocked. Okay, and yes, there you have a heart and lungs and oxygen, and there's more energy systems in the body. All of this is like obfuscated with like the complexity of that, but basically, your muscle mass is your motor units, but it is also the maximum energy that you have for that movement. That's probably not a very good way to say that. Now, I'm both giving you time to understand what I said and thinking of a better way to phrase it for those who don't get what I said. Oh, again, it's not exact, but assuming you were suddenly suffocated and you weren't refreshing your muscles constantly with, you know, breathing and stuff, the muscle mass that you have is both more, you can have more motor units and stuff in there by getting bigger muscle, but it is also the total amount of energy that can be expended by that muscle before it is depleted and useless. So, people talk about like bodybuilding training is useless because it increases your sarcoplasmic or whatever the fuck it's called hypertrophy, and it's not actually including building more muscle unit motor units or whatever the fuck. That's not useless. That is your fuel supply for doing work. So, I'm sure that I'm actually not very strong for my size. Okay, and especially in the lifts that people care about. But if someone is like, hey, bro, like I'm a little bit smaller than you, and I have like I'm 120% as strong. Like your body to weight ratio or whatever for your strength is useless. And like, okay, cool. So I can do this 100 pound, whatever the fuck, and you can do the 120. And how many reps did you hit with the 120? Oh, you hit 3 of them. Fantastic. I hit 300. And my form was breaking down, but fucking good luck. Good luck doing that. So, training in low rep ranges is only training your motor units. You're totally ignoring half of what muscle mass is. And if you compete in some sport like powerlifting or something where your maximum force output in 1 second compared to your body weight is all that matters to you, then fine. That makes sense to do that. But if you want to be huge because you are a bodybuilder, or if you just are, because I'm not either of these things, if you just want to be as powerful as possible in totality without caring about some specific sport or goal or something, you need to train both of these aspects. And in training in low rep ranges, you're like, well, training in low rep, okay, so we're just cut that off, jump a little bit. We're going to talk about like why training in low rep ranges is not going to be training the gas tanks aspect of your muscles. Okay, it's not going to be really doing very good job at that. So if you can lift 500 pounds in whatever the fuck lift. That's your 1 rep max, okay? And you're like, okay, cool. So I should train that. Okay, now how many can if we drop it to 300 pounds, how many reps can you do at 300 pounds? And you're like, well, probably like 10. Okay, so one of these sets you're going to lift 500 pounds, and one of these sets you're going to lift 3,000 pounds, right? And you're like, yeah, but that's not me actually. Okay, yes. So the motor recruitment aspect of the muscle is being trained more when you're doing the 500, whatever the fuck. But the total energy required from the muscle is either, don't be like pedantic and make this complicated with saying like whatever the fuck. Basically, okay, yes, because you're breathing and you're slowly refilling the muscle constantly. And shut up. So basically, one set has moved 500 pounds through that range of motion and stuff. Don't, you know, we can complicate this in 500 ways if you like. And if you're one of these math bros who like pen and paper, you might have fun doing that. But we're creating a heuristic here to understand approximately what you should do. Shut up. Okay. One of these sets you have moved 500 pounds. You have used 500 units of fuel. It is like directly, okay, without being stupid and complicating it. You have used 500 units of fuel. You have required of your muscles 500 units of fuel to move this weight. The other one, you have required 3,000. Okay, and yes, there's other complications than moving the 500. Okay, it is hard. You might be like, it's even harder to move the 500 than the 3,000, the set of 10. Okay, now if we expand this idea even more, what if we drop this to 200? And you're like, well, that's really lightweight to me. That's fucking barely feelable. I can do like 100 reps, maybe, if I really fucking sat there and started to not worry about my form so much and I really was grinding the fuck out of it. I hit a fucking 100 reps. Okay, well, suddenly, it's 20,000 pounds, right? Like 200 times. I probably look really stupid right now. I can barely even remember what I said a second ago. So 200 pounds, 100 reps. Yeah, right? 20,000 pounds. Compared to 500. The effectiveness of building muscle size for that set, we could basically say, is that amount much more effective? And it's not, because you are straining the motor units more on the other one. Maybe. But near the end of that set, you're really straining the motor units. It's really fucking hard to move that weight. But you need to be running. You need to get to a state where it is. You are taxing both of these muscular systems, okay, to advance the muscle to its maximum potential. And you're never gonna. I don't know. At some point, I mean, bigger sets are just gonna do that. Okay, if you just start running the numbers of what you can lift by lowering some weight, yeah. So you increase the motor units by pushing weight that taxes the motor units, and you increase the fuel capacity of your muscle cells, basically, by running them on empty. And being, that shit hurts. That shit sucks. But if you're training in these low rep schemes only, now I also train in higher rep schemes, at the beginning of my workout when I'm fresh, less likely to get hurt. But the vast majority of my training, I'll do a few sets of that, heavy stuff or something. But the vast majority of my training is in very large sets compared to what most people move around. Because and you can change the ratio of this however you want, or you can never train in large sets. Like I said, if you're worried about if you're calisthenics or powerlifting or anything where you're worried about weight gain, you're like, I really just want to be as strong as possible for my weight. Okay, well, this is not for you. But if you want to be a bodybuilder specifically, or if you don't give a fuck, you just want to be as powerful and masculine and whatever the fuck is possible, you just want to be that guy, You need to do high rep. You could do both, you know? You can find whatever ratio of these training styles that you want, but you should incorporate large sets if you're not worried about only your max force production for your body weight. Okay? And there is going to be some upper bound of this where it's useless because you are, you know, breathing and refreshing your muscles constantly. Don't suffocate yourself while you lift weights. And at some point, you're refreshing faster than you are actually. You're not running the tanks on empty. You're like, you know, don't go do a set of 60,000. But the upper bound of this, it's probably not anything in the double digits even. Okay, your sets can be enormous compared to how you think they should be, and the bigger they are, up till you hit that limit, and you pen and paper bros who really care about this kind of shit can try to do some scientific mumbo jumbo or some math or something to figure this out if you really fucking care. Uh, but until you hit that upper limit, basically lowering the weight a little bit and increasing the reps by a lot, because that's what's going to let you do, is going to force the muscle to move more weight in total per set. And your muscle mass, when you look at someone and they have a lot of muscle mass, it's not your max force production. It's not whatever the fuck all this stuff. It's the maximum amount of energy that can be dumped in one go. And one go isn't necessarily one rep. Think of it as like one set. And in the real life, like things aren't usually sets, but you know, that's basically what muscle mass is. So start training for that. And that's the math you could do. Like to optimize your training, you could just go figure out with pen and paper and a little bit of experimentation on yourself how you can lift the most weight in one set. Stop caring about what you can move in one rep unless it is sport specific to you. And that will get you the most growth. That is the metric that everyone needs to care about and that no one ever talks about. So I've just revolutionized the bodybuilding world. You're fucking welcome. Have a good one.